The rise of the corporate landlord. This story applies to you no matter where you are. Specifically, we're focusing on a community in central Ohio, but if the principles apply nationwide. For instance, I'm here in Dallas. There's actually a Dallas company that's one of the major players in this story. So we're going to talk about the cycle, which is rent. Corporation buys a bunch of properties. Now they set the comps. Now rent's too high. Now you can't save. So now you can't buy. So now you got to keep renting. And corporations try to pitch this as if people love renting because it's so cheap. Not really the case. They just can't buy properties. We're not actually talking about some solutions lawmakers are actually putting into place, and some lawmakers who are just ignoring the situation altogether. So let's get into the story.
Rent collectors moving from multifamily apartment complexes to single family homes.
It really was disappointing to see that the world of renting has come to this.
As more out-of-town investors buy Ohio starter homes for cash.
Do you mind if I ask you what you pay in rent? $13.50.
They're raising rents for thousands.
A little word called compassion. Have compassion on people.
Now state and federal lawmakers are stepping in.
Do you think we're in a crisis?
I do think we're in a crisis.
As homeownership becomes less attainable for constituents.
So it's keeping you from even buying a home for yourself.
Correct.
These are the hidden costs of today's housing crisis.
So first and foremost, I want to say this is probably one of the better put together stories I've seen online. A lot of times the news focuses on like hyperbole and clickbait and all this, but this is a very well put together story. So hopefully stay for the whole episode and check out the video in its full entirety online. I will link it down below.
Hello, YouTube viewers. I'm ABC6 on your side problem solver, Lisa Rontola, and this is my latest edition of Hidden Costs of Today's Housing Crisis. In Ohio, lawmakers tell me they fear a new renting trend will kill off the middle class. That trend, out-of-town and out-of-state investors buying up Ohio homes as soon as they hit the market and then renting them to you.
And so I'd like to point out, once again, this is not just an Ohio thing. Obviously, she's in Ohio, so she's focusing on that. But this is like nationwide. You all remember the story about JP Morgan Chase spending $1 billion with the B dollars towards buying properties over the next couple of years, all throughout Sunbelt, right? And why the Sunbelt? Because property's cheap. I think the taxes are lower, and a lot of people are moving towards that area. So they've kind of done the research on where people are moving. This is not a new thing. Really, pull up the stat right here. So over the last decade, a number of investors have purchased homes, which has increased from basically like 10 to 15% pre-pandemic, all the way up to like 20, 25% in certain areas. Like in Texas, the most recent data I saw was that 28% of the homes in 2021 were purchased by investors. And by 2040, there was a stat that 40% of homes may be owned by corporations. So that's the trend we're on right now.
By 2040, they were talking about upwards of around 40 or 50% of the single-family homes in this country would be owned by corporate landlords.
I literally forgot that was the next sentence, but there you go. Backed up right away.
I just find that deeply disturbing.
And just take a look at the state of Ohio. We're in a hole of about 250,000 homes to meet current housing demands.
And so if we look at that number nationally, as of an article I saw 3 weeks ago, we are short nationally 3.8 million homes. So once again, not an Ohio story. This is a national story. And the very important thing is a big percentage of those homes are affordable homes, meaning that basically it takes up less than 30% of the person's mortgage to live in that property. That's where the real gap is, because there's no real incentive for home builders to build affordable homes. They have to get subsidies from the city in order to actually make it affordable. And you're probably thinking, oh, evil home builders, blah, blah, blah. But if you run a business, are you going to build a product that makes you, not even talking about making a bunch of money, but you want to actually just like live and put food on the table? So like I know somebody here in the Dallas market that builds affordable homes, and in order for it to be profitable, like they have to get subsidies from the city in order to build these communities.
Until we can build, the spotlight is on buying. According to the Pew Research Group, institutional or out-of-town investors are hitting Ohio hard. They bought nearly 33,000 single-family homes, which was 21% of the home sales in 2021.
So once again, Ohio is not even one of the top locations. So when you're viewing this story, notice that Ohio is kind of below the average for places where corporate landlords have swooped in. So once again, maybe worse where you are.
And that number was twice as much as the year before.
Just said that.
There were people still living in this house up until about 2 weeks before we moved in.
With retirement just a few years away.
This was like our, okay, we'll take it house.
School teacher Teresa Foster and her husband decided to downsize before relocating to Iowa.
So I've never been in a house, you know, that the stair steps are in the middle.
So they sold their $375,000 home in Thornville and looked for a home to rent.
We looked in subdivisions in Canal. We looked in subdivisions in Pickerington.
Even under different names, Teresa tells me she found every home she looked into linked back to Nevada-based corporation, American Homes for Rent.
And so, yeah, so I did a report on this maybe 5 or 6 months ago, talking about the rise of the corporate landlord. So I'm going to tell you who like the 5 major players are in this rent-to-own society, because this is not even number one, owning, I think they said 50 or $60,000 homes. So Princium Partners, the leader in the clubhouse with 90,000 homes nationwide. Invitation Homes, the next one at 80,000. And then American Homes for Rent or for Sale. When I did the research 5 months ago, they were called American Homes for Sale. They own 60,000 homes right here. Tricon owns 36,000 homes, and Amherst Groups is the number 5, but they did not have any data for that company.
Seemed like almost any subdivision that was a house, a home, was owned by American Homes for Rent.
What did that tell you?
That they had a monopoly.
According to AMH's first quarter earnings report, it owns more than.
And that is a very important thing, which she talks about the monopoly, even if it isn't like a textbook monopoly where they own 100% of the thing. If you own like 10, 20% of community, you can shift the comparable sales. If a home is for rent, for like, $2,000, that's what the next person is going to list their home for rent for $2,000. So they can kind of basically drive up the prices by just owning maybe 10 to 20% of an area. And sometimes these corporations will buy like entire communities. When we talk about JP Morgan Chase and that $1 billion they were putting towards owning homes, they were buying like entire communities in the Atlanta area when they started, like 250 home communities, all one swoop at a time. They may not seem like a lot of homes, but when you're driving around, count like how many homes are on like one street. There may be like 10, 15 homes. So let's say it's 10 homes. That's 25 blocks. I'm a realtor in Dallas and would love to help you reach your goals of home ownership. So click the link in the description and just schedule a call no matter where you are on your journey. Not in Dallas, no worries. I can help connect you with a vetted realtor in your local jurisdiction as well. And feel free to share with friends, family, and foes. Everyone gets love. Get 250 properties.
2,000 homes in Columbus, nearly 2,000 more in Cincinnati. This is part of the more than 50,000 homes it owns across the U.S.
Yeah.
The executives up.
So maybe it's gone down a little bit. Like say when I did my report about 5, 6 months ago, it was 60,000. Maybe they're selling some, or maybe they're kind of squishing down the numbers.
The company posted a video to investors on their website.
We're maximizing the returns to our investors.
Also online.
So once again, their company, their goal is to maximize profits for the shareholder. That's the goal of every single company. So they're doing what they're supposed to do as far as the business. And so the commodity in this situation just happens to be homes.
American Homes for Rent highlights an increase in rent and other single-family property revenues of 11% to bring in nearly $400 million for the first quarter of this year.
There you go. And so their goal is to increase revenue by any means necessary.
I think that, we're at their mercy.
Yep.
And if they want to raise rent, they're going to raise rent, because where else are we going to go?
Teresa is now paying $23.50 a month for this Aetna home, which AMH bought for $213,000 in 2019. Her own mortgage for an even bigger house was less than $1,800 before she sold.
So they don't really get into why this lady sold their property, but that's one thing you want to make sure you're looking at before you sell your property, is like where you're going. Because a lot of people have a bunch of equity right now, but it's just like, that's why we kind of have this golden handcuffs, this gridlock in the market, whereas like people have equity in the home, but it's like I sell my home and then I do what with it? Like, so I'm not sure what the whole backstory is and why she like sold a home in an area and is now trying to move to another home in the area. I guess I kind of missed that part. They didn't really dig into those details, but have a plan before you sell your home.
Do you think we're in a crisis?
I do think we're in a crisis. I think and the worst part about it is a very slow moving crisis.
State Senator Bill Blessing out of Hamilton County is now trying to crack down on out-of-state investors who buy, own, and rent out homes in Ohio by the thousands.
Do you want to live in a world where home ownership is dying?
He is proposing to levy a tax of $1,500 a month per property for any entity that owns more than 50 single, double, or triple family homes in one single county.
So, like, I think that's like a legit solution. A lot of times you hear kind of like bozo propositions where it's like, hey, we're going to ban all investors and stuff that's just not realistic because most investors are people that own, like, despite what you see on the internet where I got $100, it's people that own like 1 or 2 properties. So yeah, if you own 50, like you're like a corporate landlord. I'd say even if you're just a one person business, like you're a corporate landlord at that point, if you own like 100 or 50 properties in one county. So that doesn't seem that realistic or that unrealistic or unreasonable.
Then be forced to sell. These properties would then go back into homeowners' hands.
He's also calling for transparency of knowing who operates an LLC at the point of a home purchase.
It's not a difficult business model to understand. Try to get the property as cheaply as possible.
And so it depends where you are, and they'll talk about like building LLCs under the LLC. However, like communities where stuff is full disclosure states or public information states, like in Texas, you can just type somebody's name in and figure out who owns a property. And so sometimes they'll be under LLCs, but you can search the LLC and see how many properties that LLC owns in a certain county. So if you're in Dallas and like the property you're buying is owned by LLC, just type that in. You can see how many properties they own.
Possible with a cash offer and avoid an appraisal at all costs. Evict any current tenants who are not paying.
And so don't let the no appraisal thing go over your head, because one thing that does keep home prices down a little bit is appraisal. So like let's say you're on a block where there's 10 properties. Well, if all the properties on that block have sold and they're all kind of the same, they sold for $200,000. If you list your home for $250,000, somebody may buy it, but the appraiser is going to look at the other properties and be like, all right, every single home in the last 100 or in the last 90 days in a half a mile radius, they've sold for about $200,000, maybe $195,000, maybe $205,000. Well, there's no reason this property is worth $250,000. You know, maybe the trends are going up as far as sale, but okay, this home may appraise for $210,000. So now the bank will only loan you $210,000. As a result, unless you want to come out of pocket that $40,000, you need to get that loan amount or that sales price down to $210,000 because that's all the lender's going to lend you. However, you can do this move, which corporate landlords do, is let's look at that block with 10 properties. So let's say you buy 8 of those properties for $200,000. Do you buy the last 2 for $250,000? Now in the block behind it, they're looking at the 2 most recent sales of $250,000. So now the properties on the other side of the block, now they're worth $250,000 because the last 2 comparable sales said $250,000. And therefore, those other 8 homes they bought for $200,000, now they're worth $250,000 as well. So 8 homes times a $50 improvement in equity, that's $400,000 they just made out of thin air, because when you're paying cash, you don't have to worry about an appraisal.
The highest rate the market will bear.
His own constituents are battling Texas-based corporation Vinebrook Homes, which he says owns close to 4,000 properties in Hamilton County.
What I tell you, somehow I didn't plan this video, but somehow Dallas is in the mix as far as community in Cincinnati.
Under 90 different LLCs. The number of properties in Colerain Township, close to 28,000. And here's how it breaks down. According to Hamilton County, the state of Ohio, Vinebrook, and the township itself owns the most properties in Colerain Township. Vinebrook coming in number 2 with about 515 properties.
lot of times they'll buy these things in a large package. So you'll see, 20 houses on the auditor's website that all went in one day.
When Vinebrook Homes rent
And once again, another thing is like when you hear these homes are in distress or in foreclosure and everyone's saying, wait for the crash, they're not giving those homes to 515 different people. They're selling them all to Vinebrook in one fell swoop, whether it's 515 at a time, 20 or 100 at a time. They're moving those homes wholesale. So you're not going to be able to experience the crash like folks make you think will happen. But there's also no data to support a crash as of today anyways.
renter we spoke with in Colerain Township did not want to be identified.
Our rent was supposed to be like $12.50.
And at this point, she told me there's no way she can buy a home of her own. The rent is eating all of your savings.
Pretty much.
So it's keeping you from even buying a home for yourself.
Correct.
And then because they're stuck renting, a lot of these companies then say, oh, people prefer renting.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's just that they can't afford to buy a home, not that they prefer renting.
Even with similar out-of-state investor trends seen in Columbus, Cincinnati, and Cleveland,
The streets of Cleveland are paved in platinum because the houses are so cheap following the foreclosure crisis and the rents never decline.
Senator Blessing admits he's facing an uphill battle at the State House due to colleagues from his own Republican Party. Some of your colleagues from your own party are saying this is not what we do.
Correct. They're
Once again, shocker, politicians being influenced by money. That's what it is money. Like, why would you not care about what your constituents are paying as far as the right to live somewhere?
there are a number of folks within my own party that view this as, to your point earlier, that this is not free market.
He predicts if the number of homeowners continues to decline.
And so real quick, before he gets to his point, I'm curious, just kind of pause this video and think about, is this like an indictment or like a kind of neglecting free market or capitalism? Like, should corporations and companies be able to do whatever you want? I've kind of always been on that side, because like, how are you going to stop somebody from buying something to an extent, right? I don't want the rise of the corporate landlord everywhere, but my thing is always like, how can you stop a company from buying a property that is on the market? But he has a very good point, and I like his solution to the issue.
And renters increase.
Shareholders get a better return on our product than they do on somebody who's just out acquiring. And a better return is better for our company, better for shareholders.
We're in store for even worse conditions ahead.
If we go into a recession and people start losing, their homes, we're really going to be in bad shape in Ohio.
I was only able to find the executive office locations for both American Homes for Rent and Vinebrook Homes from their reports they filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. I have not heard back from Vinebrook, but AMH sent me this statement. Single-family rentals have been a popular housing option for decades, and companies like AMH are creating greater consistency in experience, convenience, product, service, and amenities while providing the benefits of single-family living. Large single-family rental companies like AMH own a small fraction of single-family rental units in the Columbus region.
They do such damage to the community. They buy them up, they raise rents, they often don't keep them up.
This month, U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown from Ohio announced his proposal for the Stop Predatory Investing Act. That would eliminate the federal tax deduction of interest or depreciation on properties owned by corporations and investors with portfolios of 50 single-family home rentals or more in one community. Even if these corporations claim to own a fraction of the single-family home rentals, Senator Brown says that fraction still equates to thousands.
Yeah.
The opposition is saying this is messing with the free market. Is this act messing with the free market?
Well, the free market doesn't. It's not really the free market when you give tax breaks. We're just taking away the tax breaks.
Boom. I thought that was a very, very good point. Just taking away the tax breaks. They're not really doing anything as far as stopping their opportunity to buy homes, which I think that's a legit solution. You can see Democrat here, you got the previous guy who was a Republican. So this seems to be a bipartisan issue that hopefully we can get resolved in Ohio, Texas, or wherever you may reside.
Can the Stop Predatory Investing Act pass without Republican support?
No, we'll need Republican support.
I
There we
contacted the office of U.S. Republican Senator from Ohio, J.D. Vance. I asked his stance on Senator Sherrod Brown's bill or the housing issues as a whole. After more than a week, they've yet to get back to me.
Shocker.
Institutional investor AMH now wants to create a new build-to-rent subdivision in Marysville, and the concept is creating a lot of controversy.
So this is a very interesting topic here as well, because wait till you hear about the comps. Just pay attention to the comps,
Dozens of
or not even the comps, but the price of what these homes are just all of a sudden magically worth.
homeowners who live next to Weaver Mill Farms attended AMH's presentation to City Council this week. AMH wants to build 300 single-family rental homes in a cluster type of housing. Those homes will be valued at $400,000. Their rents will range from $2,300 to $2,700 a month.
$4,000 based on what? They just said, hey, they're going to be worth $400,000. They're not even done an appraisal or built the property, but they're just saying, hey, these homes are going to be worth $400,000. Once again, they just built so many, their own homes are the comparable sales. They just gotta make up numbers. That's what builders do. And that's why there's such huge profits on building new homes. I think like the average new construction home, at least in Texas, is like a 28% to like 30% margin on that property. But once again, the value doesn't really matter because they're not selling them to you anyways.
Rent has increased in
But they use the value of the home to say what the rent should be.
Marysville by nearly 20% in the last year and a half. And the developer says this project would not use affordable housing tax credits issued by the state.
Because they can't.
These
But sorry, listen to what the gentleman has to say. Just I'll let you kind of form your own opinion here.
will not be affordable housing. I wish I could develop affordable housing all over Central Ohio because there's such a need. But that's a unicorn. Marysville land, Marysville services, Marysville construction, home builder construction, labor, interest rates, all of that does not allow for affordable housing to be built here. I'm just being honest. It's a unicorn.
This is one of 4 rental subdivision proposals AMH has made throughout Central Ohio in the last few years. Marysville City Council will vote on a possible change of zoning for this project in August.
So that's really, you can check out the whole video it'll be linked down below, but I think that's just a very interesting kind of look at where America, your neighborhood may be going as far as the rent to own thing, or just renting versus owning in general. That's why I like to say, folks always think, hey, you're saying buy a property because you're a realtor. So you want to make commission, yada, yada, yada. Well, no, it's just because I can see where the trends are going and where the data is going. Anybody that bought a home most likely prior to 2020 is very happy, right? Because your property taxes may have gone up, but you could not probably afford to buy a home in the same area you're in right now because home prices nationally have gone up 43%. Same thing with rents, like they've gone crazy as well. So that's the power of owning. So at least the silver lining is if one of these folks jump in and they just jump in or move to a neighborhood near you or build a community in a neighborhood near you, at least you get to kind of ride the equity train to the top or the wave to the top, because you may have bought your home for $250 in 2019, but now they're building homes in the community that are all of a sudden just worth $400K. Well, you at least get to get a little bit of that equity out of the solution. If you're just renting, all you do is get beat over the head with those rent increases. But let me know what you think. I'm curious your thoughts on the situation, solutions, and is this kind of the same thing as far as what's going on in the community near you? Let me know. And any other stories, feel free to tag me and I'll do my reaction to those. But as always, buy land, rumor has it they're not making any more of it.